All right, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining today. Welcome to this week's episode of 15 with the Team, a series where the Office of the Student Advocate discusses common topics within DC education system to help you become better informed and empowered in less than 15 minutes. My name is Natalie Powell, and I'm a student advocate with the Office of the Student Advocate, and we will be talking about teacher leadership, not just what happens inside of a classroom, but how teachers work together with families, students, and the broader community to make our schools stronger. So, can you introduce yourself, your role in your school, and how long you've been teaching?
Awesome. So my name is Julian Romero. I'm currently a math and science teacher at Maury Elementary in DCPS. And I've been teaching for 12 years.
Love it. You've been in the game for quite a while, and I definitely salute you for all of your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, when your school is trying to get something done or improve an issue, how do you engage with the wider community to make that happen?
So this is my first year at Maury Elementary, so I've gotten to see new ways of how to do that. So my school has like a really good, it's like a really tight community. And so there's just different avenues. So each class has something called room parents. And so we can communicate directly to room parents or to the parents of our specific classrooms through them. They kind of like are like almost like parent leaders within each classroom, which I think is really cool. It's a good way for parents to communicate with parents. And it kind of like gives us more space to get direct contact quickly. The school also does like a weekly email, which is like the which comes from the principal. And it kind of gives like updates and things like that and like initiatives that are coming up and events that the school is hosting. And then as well as each classroom also shares out a weekly newsletter that kind of talks about more about like the specific classroom events happening. So it kind of like it can be like broad from like the school and then it like kind of like zones in with like the weekly newsletters from the classrooms. But yeah, I think there's just like a lot of different ways. Like if parents don't check email, the parents have like this like group chat with all the parents in the school. So it's just like there's just like a lot of different ways to not miss information. And yeah, so I've found that something unique. In comparison to my past experiences where like not as much parent involvement, but there's like a lot of like parent leadership. And I think the school does a good job of like fostering that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And especially being able to tap in with parents across so many different modalities. I
Hmm.
feel like that's oftentimes the source of frustration with parents of why they feel disconnected from the school.
Hmm.
So I would love if you could talk a little bit more about the success of those parent partnerships, even like within like with the room parents and just how that's been so important to your school success.
Yeah, I think honestly it just like it feels like there's more of like a partnership like home and school. So it's like it just truly feels like, like what happens in school like impacts what happens at home and what happens at home impacts what happens at school. So there I just feel like there's just like tighter communication across families, teachers and leaders in the school. And I think it's just like open. And I think for me like what made me realize how important that partnership is like being a new teacher at that school. And I was like embraced and greeted by a pre-K teacher, a pre-K parent. Like it's like so that's like just to show like how serious like the communication across the whole school is. Like everybody knew that I was a new teacher in the building and they like made me feel welcome. And even like at the beginning of the school year, it was odd because like to be honest, like I'm just not used to that much parent involvement. And my parents kept asking me like, "Hey, we emailed you. Like, what do you need? Do you need anything?" And it's just like, and I'm like, like, so it was like a little bit surreal, but it's really cool. Like, it's even up to like the events we host in the classrooms, like the parents organize like the snacks for the event. The parents organize, and they like divide up like celebrating birthdays in the classroom. So if kids that might not have the resources to like bring in stuff for their birthday, like they organize that. So it truly just feels like a family. And I think that makes it that much more, it makes it an easier job, but again, it just makes it easier to like just talk to parents, having tough conversations, having great like it just makes it easy to have those because it's like I know their involvement and I know that they care. And not that parents that aren't involved don't care, but it's just like really easy to just reach out and like ask for help and vice versa. Like they also feel very inclined because at the beginning of the school year, we say reach out to us if you have any questions. And sometimes not a lot of parents take advantage of that. And like the parents at my new school do, and that lets me know like, oh, like they truly like take that to heart. And I think that's a good sign of like the community we have at our building. But yeah.
I love that. That sounds like such like a beautiful environment where parents are really empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just like double empowers you as a teacher as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked a little bit about parents, but I would love to hear how you've been able to create opportunities for students to share their perspectives, and also be part of some of that influence of the school community.
Yeah. So I think like that's always been a big part of like my educational philosophy. Like students need to feel like empowered and advocate for themselves and things like that. And I think again, this was something interesting that when I came into the school, like the kids already had that like almost like embedded in them. So like, it was the funny like teacher thing where you're like, I'm gonna take away your recess, and they're like, well, actually, you can't take away our recess. Da, da, da. So you know what I'm saying? So it's just like the kids truly like, sometimes it's like, okay, we get it. You know how things roll, but yeah, but the kids feel super empowered, and we actually like dedicate which was also new for me, like team planning time is around like student advocacy and how we can like how we can empower students and empower students in different ways. Maybe students that like don't really speak up for themselves, or students that like kind of like take it too far. So it's just like there's just like a lot of time dedicated to planning that and yeah, so I think there's like a lot of time. Like academics are very important, but there's also like dedicated time weekly where we like plan out ways that students can advocate for themselves. So what that lives like in the classroom is like, if a teacher is aware of it, like, allowing students to like maybe they have a different way they want to do something. So I'm the math teacher, for example, so I could give a math example. Like if we're learning a new strategy today and like a student says, well, I think I'm gonna try this strategy, but like to show my learning, can I show the way that I would rather do it? And I think, it's a small way of like allowing them to like, use the things that work best for them. So that's like a way in academics that it happens. And then in terms of how we deal with behavior management and things like that is also very like logical consequences. So like students are also able to understand that like the mistake that they might make, like the consequences good it's gonna correlate with what they have. So they trust that like it's not gonna be unfair, even though kids still find a way to find things unfair. But we just try to find like every avenue of like making sure that students feel empowered to share how they feel. Yeah, and it's cool because the amount of texts maybe okay, I'm being dramatic. Amount of texts might be overkill, but like I've gotten like 2 to 3 texts where it's like so and so came home to me today and told me that they were really struggling with this, and then you helped them out when they asked for help, and now they really get it. So I really appreciate you taking out the time and things like that. So like students not only like feel empowered to advocate for it, but then they like genuinely share like how that's positively impacting them, which I think is really cool. I think sometimes teachers are unspoken heroes, so it's nice to hear from parents and the students as well that they feel like they are in power, but that sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Like, they feel like they feel safe, and they feel like it's not like a traditional like I don't know, like kind of like strict environment where they don't have space to like speak up for themselves. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I think, self-advocacy is such an important skill that I, as an adult, often struggle with. And so to imagine what a student can produce as themselves when they've grown up in that kind of environment and what that means for their future is amazing to think about.
Yeah. And I think dang, I had the thought in my head, but I think there's just been like a lot of moments just where like I've had to check myself because I'm like is this student like trying to like question my authority, or are they truly, you know what I'm saying? So that's like also something that I'm unlearning, that is just like, no, like this is what we want our students to do. So like finding the way, like they might need to work on their delivery and how they might advocate for themselves, because sometimes it's a little like this is not the time and things like that. But I need to check myself where I'm like, no, like this is what I want. These are the leaders that I want to be our leaders in the future. So yes, but yeah.
That's a very real growing point. And I think, to that point, could you speak to any advice that you would give to teachers who want to continue to kind of create, replicate some of the change that you've been able to impart at Maury?
I think the big thing, and I think it's been part of like my growth as a educator. Like if you make a mistake, like own up to it. And it's just like this like idea of like having power and control. Like it's almost like not fake, but it's just not something worth like trying to cling on to. So like there's gonna be moments where you're going to potentially not do what's in best interest. And it's like I feel like those powerful moments have been where I'm like, oh my goodness, like you were advocating for yourself and I was not in the space to like hear you out, and I kind of like put my foot down, and I don't think that was fair. Like that wasn't kind, that wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So like truly like letting go and releasing that like need to feel like you're in charge, because it's I don't, it's not that it's fake, but it's just like it's just not worth something like a hill to die on. Like so, but also I'm not saying let them run over you, but like it's just like finding that balance where like like truly take the time to put yourself in their shoes and have those meaningful conversations. Because that was also something that like I've been hearing this year at Maury, that is just like um I have really good relationship with my kids, and I think it's because of that. Like it's like I'm gonna hold you accountable, but at the same time I'm gonna hear you out. And so that's something that like has led to a lot of positive interactions in my school.
That's awesome. And I definitely want to commend you because I think, as a veteran teacher, it can be so easy to be like, well, no, this is the way I've done it. This is the way I'm used to. And so we're going to stick with that. And so to be able to just, to own and acknowledge these are the ways that I need to grow and this is how I'm doing it. And then actually living it out and doing it, I think speaks volumes to you. So
Oh,
shout out to you for that.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. We truly can build strong schools with our teachers working together, partnering with families, and amplifying student voices. And it's awesome to hear that that's exactly what you're doing at your school right now. And so we're super excited to elevate you and your work and all of the wonderful things happening at Maury.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.